everybody. Welcome back to my workshop and welcome back to my garage. What we're going to be doing today is a mock assembly on this guitar right here. As you can see, I've already got it done up, but we're going to go through the video on how it went about the process of getting this done and why. By doing the mock assembly now, what that allows me to do is get all the holes drilled, make sure everything is positioned correctly. That way, once the finish is applied, all I have to do is put everything back together. The screw holes are already tapped, so it's going to be less resistance and less chance of me having a screwdriver slip and hitting the finish. I know that the pots are going to be adjusted properly to where the knobs are going to fit properly, and I don't have to worry about the shaft length and adjusting that. I know everything's going to work exactly as it's supposed to. So let's get rolling on this assembly. I'll walk you through what I've done, and then we'll go from there. Also, I just want to say thank you very much for tuning into the channel. If you like what I'm doing, please click like, click subscribe. It really helps the channel out moving forward. But let's go ahead and get rolling on this assembly. For the tuners, what I'm using is hip shot locking tuners. I've picked the open gear tuners. I think they look really nice with the open gear on them. But these are locking tuners, so that'll work nicely with the tremolo system. And I'm going to be using a tusk nut on it as well. So what we're going to do is go ahead and press on with assembly. I want to get the tuning pegs on first and get those lined up and the holes drilled. And then after that, I can get the trem on, I can put some strings on it, and then I can see where I'm going to center and where I'm going to put my pickups at. For the tuners, this is a 3x3 headstock. So when you put your tuners on, you want to make sure that you're putting them on in the right orientation. So I've already determined which one is my bass side and which one are my treble side tuners. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, we're going to mount those on there loosely to kind of line them up. And I'm going to do one side at a time. So we're just going to put these on. Not going to worry about tightening them down right now. We're just going to put them a little bit snug. That way we can get them aligned and drill the holes on the back. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to snug the bolts down. These are 10 mil. I want them snug enough to where they don't move by themselves, but I want them snug, loose enough to where I can move them and line them up. You can see when I put the ruler on it that this one is a little bit further in than these two because of the angle that the headstock takes. So what I do is I want to line the one up, kind of get it set. I'll take a look at the other ones and get them lined up to where they're cosmetically nice. And then I have plenty of clearance, as you can see, to turn and tune. But those look pretty good like that. So what we'll do is we'll get these put on here, and then we can get the small screw installed on the back side of the tuner, which is basically an anti-rotation screw. It keeps the tuner from rotating. It's really not designed to hold the tuner in. That's what this top nut is for. It's designed to hold the tuner in. If you see the back here, kind of what I've done is I've lined them up. This is the side that we initially put in. That's the bass side. And then the treble side, what I've done is try to align to where these are parallel with one another. Because the way this headstock flares, the flare is different on this side than on this side. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of visually lining these tuners up now. You'd be amazed at how accurate you can be just by eyeballing something sometimes. It makes all the difference in the world. All right, so there I have everything lined up. You can see that it looks pretty good from that angle. The tuners are kind of in line with one another. And then when you look at the back, again, it's pretty symmetrical on the back. You don't have anything sticking out all crooked and everything. So this is going to be a good alignment for the tuners, I do believe. So we're going to go ahead here in a minute and we're going to get these screw holes drilled in the back and get those tapped. You do want to exercise caution when drilling because you do have a thickness that you have to worry about your headstock. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 1/16 inch drill bit, drill down. I'm going to measure how long the screw is, and then I'm going to mark it with some tape on my drill bit. That way it prevents my drill bit from going all the way through. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and pre-tap these holes. I do like just a little bit of wax on the screw, especially the first time. It helps it thread into that hole much easier. Now that I've got the screws lined up in the back, I'm just going to give these a snug. And then a quick look to make sure everything's still lined up, and everything still looks good with the alignment on the tuners. Let's go ahead and get the trim system temp mounted in here. As you see, off camera I went ahead and installed the spring claw. Just went ahead and installed that. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put the trim on. Now the way this works, this Vega trim, this metal block here, I've got the inserts, the sheet metal screw inserts going into the body already. This is going to set, and then the screws go in to bolt this down to the body. Keeping in mind, we're not going super tight here. All we're doing is putting this together so I can get my string spacing and everything ready. Now you're going to see, as I run this down, before I tighten it down, so you can see there's a little bit of movement on this plate. And what that's going to allow me to do is once the trim drops into here, I can put that on there. And when I put the strings on, that's going to allow a little bit of movement side to side to allow me to get the string spacing right coming across the 22nd fret here. We're going to go ahead, drop the trim in, and I'm going to have the springs from the back side. I'm going to go ahead and hook these springs in. That would hold the trim in place and we can get a couple strings put on it. Okay, so I've got a couple springs now on the back, just holding it in there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get a string, the high E and the low E string. I'm going to go ahead and put those on. Okay, let's go ahead and set the nut in position. Okay, so this is going to allow me to do a couple things. I've got the nut just set in position, and the spring's breaking over that. And as you can see, I've got good spacing between the string and the edge of the fretboard. So I've got good string spacing there. Then what you can see here is I have the strings coming down, and that's pretty much right where I want it to be as far as the bridge placing is concerned, because as you can see, the strings are coming right about the same distance each from the edge of the fretboard. So that's good. So that the fact that my spacing's good here, that's telling me that my bridge from side to side is spaced properly. So what I can safely do now is I can safely just snug that down a little bit more because I know it's going to be in the right spot. Now the other thing that we can really take a look at now too is we've got the bridge height there, and you can see our action isn't that bad. There's room for that to go down, and in fact it will go down some when that stretches forward and gets leveled out to the proper level. But I do have room for my saddles to go down, so that means I'm going to have plenty of adjustability to set my action and get my action to the height I want it to. So that tells me that my brake angle was set properly in my neck. When I went and glued my neck in and put that brake angle in on the heel of the neck, I had everything adjusted as it should be to allow that to come up where it's going to sit properly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put the pickups in the cavities, and then that way we can line up the pickups with the high and the low E string and go ahead and drill the holes and get the pickups mounted in. Okay, you're going to put the neck in first. And this is an F-space pickup to allow for the tremolo, so the same, I'll use an F-space pickup when I put this all together. When I build the pickups, I'll make sure to use F-spaced on that, but this is one that I had in the shop, so this is going to allow me to get everything test fitted and drilled. I can go ahead and get these pickups lined up to make sure that I'm centered on the strings. What I always like to do is I like to mark one and then drill that hole, mark the second and drill it. That way I know that the pickup's not going to move at all. So that's where I want my first hole to be. I've got my drill with my 1/16 inch drill bit. That one's down. Now what I can do is I always go to the opposite corner and mark the one in the opposite corner. I've got this flush up against the neck. There's no space there, and I've got good space on my strings, front to back. All right, there's the pickups installed. Nice and straight with the pole pieces, and the strings line up nice. Now it's time to go ahead and put the control pots in and the switch, just so I can get an idea of what everything looks like. So for pots, I'm using 500K pots. I'm using long shaft because I've got the carved top, so it'll go through a little bit further. And then I've got the 3-way switch. I'm gonna have to fine tune these a little bit to get the correct depth on it. But there gives you an idea of the control cavity. These are gonna be moved around a little bit, so I've got plenty of room there in the control cavity to wire up anything that I need to wire. Everything sits at the right height. I'm gonna be able to put my control cavities on and have plenty of room in there. Bring this up to where you can see. I don't know if how well you're going to be able to see that. With the bridge all the way down, I'm looking at right now 0.02 on the low E and 0.4 at the high E. So that's way low at the moment. So this will be in good shape when it comes time to adjust this bridge up. I don't need to drop it down any lower, because what's going to happen is I still need to do some work on the nut to lower the nut at the top, and that'll be fine-tuned when I do final setup. The same with the tremolo here. You can see it's coming up, but that's a matter of balancing the string tension versus the spring tension on the back of the tremolo. But the tremolo's coming up, but you can see I've got plenty of clearance. I've got very low action at the moment with the way it is, much lower than it would be if I was playing it. So this is going to be right where I want the bridge to be. So that means when I did all my figuring with the neck angle, I got my neck angle to the proper angle. That way I can get the action as low as possible without it buzzing. So we're in good shape there. Our tuners are lining up nicely with the string pull and everything coming through. Like I said, there'll be a little bit of work on the nut. I've got good string spacing all the way down the fretboard. My switches are good. I have plenty of room inside the cavity to do my wiring. So now it's time to go ahead and let's go ahead and get this apart, and we'll look at starting with final sanding. All right, that's going to wrap this video up. The guitar's coming along really nicely. Please, if you like what I'm doing, and if you're sticking around here to the end, thank you very much for that. Also, please click like, click subscribe. It really helps out with the channel. Again, thank you very much for stopping by the channel. And until next time, take care.